Budget Committee, and I followed after Mr. Batten, which is kind of harder with other issues. We thank you very much for coming tonight. We are here tonight to talk about the problem at the hospital right now. It's very important to all of us. For me, it really has a lot of importance. I worked there, my daughter was born there, my wife had surgery there, and to me, that is one of the most important things in this community. We have a lot of people at this table who have worked hard over the last several weeks, if not months, to try and make things work. We are here tonight to learn more about what's going on. We want to keep this open and transparent. That's a term that seems to be out there a lot lately. And we'll allow the audience to participate. In order to do this on a basis so everyone has an opportunity, if you want to talk, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, and we'll allow you to talk for 2 minutes. That doesn't mean that's all you can talk. You can talk again later if you need to, but I want to give everybody the opportunity to be part of this. What I'm going to ask right now is Mr. Clark. He has been at the center of all this, and he has more information than I have, so I'm going to let him start right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Let me give you just a little brief history of how we got to where we are today. We met, I got a phone call several weeks ago from Mr. Cotton in regards to the fact the possibility that the hospital, Patient Choice Hospital, could not make their payroll, or a portion of their payroll. We called a meeting of us, Mr. Cotton, myself, and Mr. Strum, to sit down and talk about what we could possibly do to take care of that particular problem. We met on a Wednesday, because payroll was coming up on Friday. And of course, one of the things is, how does a government agency put money to a private entity? And something that we've probably never done before. But fortunately, we knew in some of the past things that had gone on that there was a problem, or a possible problem could arise at Patient's Choice. And so sometime back in January, Houston County adopted the Houston County Community Facilities Corporation, which is a non-profit organization that is chartered by the state of Tennessee. And so it's just it's great that we did that at that particular time, because in talking to our attorneys with CTAS, who's our technical assistants, one of the ways that we could do it, or the county could assist Patient's Choice, was that we make a contribution to the Houston County Community Facilities Corporation. Houston County makes contributions all the time to different organizations. So we did that. And some of those board members are here tonight in regards to that. In return, then they can make that $30,000 payment or contribution to Patient's Choice. That allowed Patient's Choice to make their payroll and continue operating. Now, why did we do that? There was a good reason why we did that. We had Signature and the Blue Corporation that was doing research on Patient's Choice to see if there was the possibility of this particular business deal to work. And it takes time to do that. They had been working on it for a month or so, but there was a lot involved in doing that. So by us making or helping Patient's Choice make that payment, that allowed the Blue Group, who works for Signature, to go on and do their due diligence and determine whether it would be feasible for someone to take over the operation of the hospital. Well, during that process, we met a couple of times in regards to that with the Blue Group, but their determination was that yes, it could work under certain circumstances. And so those circumstances, so that then allowed us to move forward in regards to that. Now, 2 weeks later, Patient's Choice made payment. So that gave a little bit more time to it. But on March, then after that, 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks, which was the next payroll, which I think was March the 2nd, Patient's Choice was not going to be in that payroll. Well, Barry and I talked about it, and we talked a lot, and these other gentlemen, I talked more with Mike than I have with this other gentleman, but we talked quite a bit. Well, Patient's signature saw that this payroll was not going to be met. And they were working with the gentleman that owns the hospital, Mr. Shoemaker in Mississippi, trying to get a letter of intent so that they could take over with a management agreement so that they could take over the operation so that the hospital never closed. Because if the hospital closes, you lose your critical access. It's gone. You can't get it back. It's over if it ever closed. And so they understood the importance of what it took to make that payroll. So it's my understanding, I know when I got the phone call, I got one at about 3:30 in the afternoon. Hey, we're putting money into Patient's Choice so that they can make payroll on March the 2nd. Now, I don't really think they had that letter of intent signed at that particular time, so that tells me that they're doing basically what we did to a certain degree. They're taking a chance. But later on that day, they did get this letter of intent signed, or the next morning, with Mr. Shoemaker. And he has signed a management agreement with them. Now what that is, that means they have not purchased this hospital. All they've got is a management agreement to operate it. Now, for this to continue on and to make it work, one of the pieces of that puzzle is financing. And that's how where Houston County comes into play. This hospital, to purchase it and to get it out of debt and to do the renovation that needs to be done, we're looking at $7.5 million. Now, I've got a thing here, and you've got a copy in your package showing how that money is broken down. And you're welcome to ask questions once I get through in regards to that. But that's what we're going to have to do. Now, if we follow the correct procedures, then we can get borrowed money at about 3.19%. Okay? Or if they had to go out on the open market, you're looking at 8.5 to 9. There's a great big difference, guys, between that payment. Now, I've not read the lease agreement. We just got it today. We don't need to make any decisions tonight in regards to this lease agreement. I just gave it to Mark Lee late this afternoon, and it's a 40-something page document, and it's a pretty good document, and it needs some study. But that's where we are in regards to that. We would be looking at borrowing $7.5 billion. But Houston County would be then owned Patient's Choice Hospital and everything that goes with it. Now, what does that mean? That means that we would own the building, the land, the furniture, the equipment that's there. But most important, we would own the certificate of need. We would own the Medicare number, and the Medicaid number, and the critical access part, which is important also. And that's why some of these costs are a little high, is because of some of the things that we've got to purchase. Now, let's look at why we need to possibly look at this and hopefully try our best to make it work. First of all, and above all, these people that are sitting out in this audience here, I know most of them, and you don't. You know most of them. All of them have family. I have family. I don't know how you put a price on a life. And the last thing that you need to do, in any way possible, is to lose a hospital. Because if we do, then there will be lives lost if we can't work something out. Now, also there are monetary costs there. There's 87 to 100 people that have good paying jobs that work at Patient's Choice and are doing it and have worked there for many years. Some of them, they would lose their job. Also, because of the affiliation between the signature and our nursing home and the hospital, there's potential of 30 jobs to be lost there. That's a pretty good impact to our rural county. So we need to look at that. Another aspect is the fact that when you look at that payroll, there's a payroll of $3.1 million that comes from Patient's Choice Hospital. That money circulates through Houston County. And that would be a pretty good loss to us. Now, there would be a big loss also. Jamie knows, he's on our industrial park board. We're in the process of building an industrial estate building that's costing us $1.5 billion. It will make it doubly hard to bring industry into this county without a hospital. Because they look at that. That's one of the things they're going to look at, because people get hurt. So it will hurt industrial development. It will hurt our tourism things that we've got going on. And we've got several things going on in regards to tourism in this county. It will also impact us if for some reason we don't do this. Houston County will have to upgrade its ambulance service. Right now, we're operating 4 vehicles. 2 of them are pretty good. The other 2 are fairly old. They're not the type of vehicles that you take out of the county. But I talked to our director of the ambulance service, and we were to staff 1 more vehicle. We're talking about 3 paramedics and 3 EMTs, which will cost, and these are figures coming right out of our payroll, $185,000 to $200,000 a year just in payroll. Then we would end up having to purchase at least 1 ambulance. I don't think I have to tell you what an ambulance costs. They're $90,000 plus, not counting what it will cost for us to staff that particular vehicle with the supplies that it will take to make it work. So there is a cost out there, a big cost, if we can't work something out for Houston County. So, and in looking at this, we also need to look at how Patient's Choice gets its money. And this is part of the lease. We've talked about this several times in regards to this. There's several ways. Medicare, Medicaid, private pay, and charitable contribution, I guess, would be a good word for it. Charitable, that people that don't pay. Well, in our lease agreement, we need to work with Signature in regards to how we structure that lease to maximize the amount of revenues that we can get when we have a patient come into that hospital, so that we can make Signature, or the name of the company, Acute Care, stable. We don't want to go through this again. I mean, this is the last thing that we want to keep going through. And we've had to, we went through a couple of owners before. But Houston County, if we do what we're thinking about doing, if we can work this out, Houston County will physically own this facility. Now, I'll give you a scenario. What if the gentleman in Mississippi decided that he didn't want to sell it, he just let it bankrupt? There's nothing we could do about it. It's his facility. He could do whatever he wanted to, and we wouldn't have been without a hospital. With us owning it, if something does happen, then we still own the facility. And let's hope this never happens. We could look for another person to hopefully manage the operation for us. So that's in a nutshell a simple form of what's going on. You've got a lease tonight that we all need to study, and we'll have to come back and we'll have to talk about it with our attorney, and I'm sure some of their attorneys to work something out in regards to that. I have asked them that in that be considered the fact that we get our $30,000 back also that we put in, and that we work with them in regards to the amount of taxes that is being paid in the form of some way of lieu of. Basically, you know now as much as I know, okay? I've done it in, I guess, a simple form, because that's what it is, because there's a lot of detail in here that's not really simple, but we can get into it. So if it's okay with Jim, who's the chairman, let's just open it up for questions that you might have, and hopefully we can try and answer those questions, okay? George.
I want to make sure this is going to be an absolute third-party arrangement. I don't want to see this hospital politicized, somebody calling up Larry or Jamie or George saying, hey, I owe this money, or they won't keep me in there another day or two, or for whatever reason. We don't need to to be some sort of a referee. So I want to make sure absolutely we are a third party, and we will have nothing to do other than being a landlord, because that would be a disaster if it politicized.
Mike, you want to speak to that? I mean, clearly, by law.
Yes, certainly. By introduction, my name is Mike Stigler. I'm a partner with Blue & Company and also chairman of Alliant Management Services, which is a hospital management company that works with Signature Healthcare. You know, the operation of a hospital, hospitals are probably one of the most regulated industries in this community. You know, as a hospital operates, we're also under requirements to be able to validate that any patient that's in there has to be medically necessary, and we're under requirements to be able to discharge them if they're not medically necessary, especially if they're under a governmental payer source from Medicare or Medicaid. Because each day that you keep that patient, you're looking at additional payments under a governmental entity for what can be considered a non-appropriate patient stay. So, you know, as we operate, and we operate 22 hospitals around the Midwest and near South. Many of those are governmental entities with governmental boards, and it's the understanding that those are to operate under the guidance of the board of directors of that local hospital and under the guidance of the medical community and the physicians that have medical staff privileges, and that there's not to be interference with, you know, how medical treatment is provided to a patient. That really is the charge of the hospital and to the physicians that are in care of that patient. So that would be our stance in operation of that facility.
Jordan, I might speak that briefly. We deal with that tension and decision making of which person can be treated safely and return home for outpatient care who needs to stay in the hospital. And so that decision making process is something we've done for a long time. And for me as a physician, same as you, don't want that decision making to be sorted out to 2 or 3 different people where it takes a committee to decide what to do to take care of this patient. We were always from the medical staff, and our responsibilities see that as our responsibility to provide satisfactory care and answer those questions and keep that decision making. It's a medical decision, not a decision from any other source. That's a good question.
Thank you.
Of course, none of us have had a chance to read this yet. I'm kind of interested in the liability. Would that be any liability for Houston County?
Yeah, as the hospital operates, the hospital will be responsible for taking liability insurance for both general liability as well as malpractice. So, participation in Medicare also is that you maintain the liability insurance in place for the institution. We would not want to operate any facility that's not providing liability coverage for the services it's providing in the community. And as a leasing entity, the leasing company doesn't have they have no liability associated with the operation or any malpractice, either vicarious liability or otherwise. And one of the other protections that we can put into that is to list the entity that holds the real estate as an additional name insured on our policy. So that's another added layer of protection that we ensure that is in place. And typically we put that into the lease arrangements as well.
Could y'all introduce these fellows, these other distinguished gentlemen might know them all. I've never seen these people.
Well, yeah, let's do that. You know Mr. Cotton?
Now,
Yeah, he's the manager of Signature Healthcare.
okay.
And Mike Stigler and George Berkeley. I met George the first time today, so, but I've dealt with these two on and off the last couple of weeks. They were with Signature.
Well,
And Acute.
well, right, that's just a kind of a legal name of a company that really won't show up their name much in the community. But do you want me to explain a little bit the relationship between these two? Signature, Barry and I are employees of the same company, Signature Healthcare. I work out of the home office in Louisville, Kentucky. My name is George Berkeley, and my title, we don't get hung up on titles much, my title is Chief Strategy Officer. I was brought into the company actually about a year ago because Joe Steyer, our CEO, said, look, there are going to be needs for us to operate critical access hospitals, to move more deeply into communities we're in where we have nursing homes because healthcare is changing, policy at the federal level is changing. They want to see people out of institutions cared for in the community and manage in a very broad way how they stay healthy, and then when they need care, where they go. So anyway, healthcare is changing, so we need to bring some hospital expertise in. My background is in hospitals. I was a hospital CEO in a number of states in cost-based reimbursed hospitals, which are what critical access hospitals are. They're cost-based reimbursed hospitals. So I and a few other people were brought in Signature about a year or so ago, and I'd worked with Joe Steyer, the CEO, many years ago, and I've known him for many years. Anyway, I'll try to make this fast. As we started due diligence, as County Mayor Clark talked about a few months ago, we have a normal path of due diligence as we were going through for this hospital here, Patient's Choice, and then we were notified about the very difficult financial situation that existed. And then we quickly, about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, realized we had to accelerate our normal process of reviewing an opportunity. And became acutely aware with the payroll issues that we were probably facing a really challenging decision in the very near term. So a lot of things we normally would do, we haven't done, but we've gotten over that. But where I'm going with this is Blue & Company, which they work under two names, Alliant Management and Blue & Company. I was the CEO of a cost-based hospital in Indianapolis 15, 20 years ago, and became familiar with Blue & Company because they're based out of Indianapolis. Their home office is Indianapolis. Great company, reimbursement specialists, managers of specialty hospitals, purchasing company. Anyway, as things evolved quickly with Patient's Choice and with our move into critical access hospitals, we just felt that we needed to bring in the expertise that Mike and his team could add to this so we could get very rapidly into a decision point, because we knew that was going to happen. Like was mentioned earlier, we certainly feel, and with real firsthand experience, if a hospital loses its provider number, especially a cost-based provider number like a critical access hospital, and staff start going elsewhere, it's not salvageable. You can't recover from that. And so we just knew we needed to move very, very quickly and really needed the expertise that Mike and his team would bring in. So we now are collaborating on this critical access hospital, and we'll collaborate on others that we move to acquire or operate where we have nursing homes in those communities. We're all about figuring out how we serve a community. So we won't have a critical access hospital, we don't intend to today, in a community where we don't have a nursing home, because we think they all have to work together. And we have home and community-based services within Signature. We deliver meals to folks at home. We do a lot of different things, and so we're trying to focus on the communities where we already exist and provide additional services in those communities. This just happened to accelerate so rapidly because of the dire situation it was in. Gave us the opportunity to start working immediately with Mike and his team, and so they bring management expertise and reimbursement expertise now in a relationship with Signature to operate critical access hospitals. So I hope I didn't take too much time, but that's kind of the backdrop to why we're both there, and you hear these two different company names being presented.
Mike, did I understand you to say that you're involved with the management of 22 hospitals?
We are, yes.
How many of those hospitals are owned by city, county, or the state?
They are all but one are not-for-profit hospitals. And of those 21 not-for-profit hospitals, I believe there are only 5 or 6 that are not county or government entities.
So this is nothing new to you. You've been through it. Okay. This is good.
That question to y'all, I mean, on the financial part, I mean, everything looks good to y'all. I mean, my concern would be the citizens of the county, the people. I mean, everybody needs this hospital in this county. You know, child, older person, it doesn't matter. I know this hospital saved a lot of lives through the years, you know. And, but I want it to go. You know? And I hope you can tell me something on that.
You know, we've only had a short period of time to be able to delve into the financials. From what we found from the 2-3 weeks we've been working on it, is we found a number of things that operationally we think we're going to be able to improve on. you know, there are just some things when you're owned by somebody outside the state. You know, in Mississippi, and he had other issues. The owner had other issues that he was having to deal with, and wasn't able to pay attention to this facility. And he didn't have an infrastructure around him that really could provide him some of the management expertise they needed for operating a critical access hospital. And so we think we've identified a number of opportunities to be able to change just the way that they build, the way they collected, the way they negotiate with third-party payers, just the way they structured their operations. There's a host of things that we're looking at making change and improvement on to be able to get this back to a stable position. We are starting from a pretty big hole. I mean, this hospital lost almost $1 million last year. That's a pretty big hole to dig out. But from what we found, there were some pretty significant opportunities to be able to change a lot of that. And some of that was one-time items that would be non-recurring that happened to occur this last year to that hospital. So we think that under this plan, the way that we could structure this operating lease, you know, it provides an opportunity to be able to advantage how the reimbursement system works for critical access hospitals and how it gets cost-based reimbursement for the lease. You know, it provides a funding mechanism to the county with sufficient funds to be able to pay the debt service on any borrowing, and then also leave money left over to help fund some of the charity care associated with those folks who have the inability to pay. And that really is one of the major issues that this hospital faced. Is every hospital that we dealt with had a significant downturn in 2008, 9, 10, and even into 11. And a lot of people are just now digging out of it, and even this facility. I mean, you're blessed as a county that you hadn't had more unemployment than what we find in a lot of rural communities. So, but there's still a lot of people that are unemployed that walk in, that need health care, that walk in the emergency room, and they just don't have the ability to pay. So, without a funding mechanism for that, it's awfully difficult to provide service. This mechanism, the way that we've structured this, it provides the county with sufficient funds to be able to pay the debt service payment on that borrowing for buying the building, and also provides sufficient funds to be able to help pay for this charity care, to be able to provide service in the community. So I think we've got a structure that will work with this case. We think we've identified enough things to be able to get it stable. It's never going to make a lot of money. It's not a big. We're not a big county to begin with. I mean, we've got less than 9,000 people, which is a small county to have a hospital. And you know, we talked about some of the
issue, though. I mean, money, we don't have to make a lot of money. That's really not the issue. The care would be more important than the money.
The issue is getting the hospital stabilized. That's correct. So, our hope is we can get it stabilized, and you've got to make a little money because you've got to buy a little capital. I mean, a hospital that never makes money is not going to stay in business either, because these hospitals end up needing $100,000 to $150,000 worth of capital put in them each year. And the only way you have that capital is if you have a little bit of bottom line to be able to do it. So,
I don't even know Mr. Cotton there. I know who you are. I've heard a lot of good things about you, sir. And I've heard a lot. I mean, this county here is pretty small. If you hear something bad happens, you'll know that too. But I've heard a lot of good things about you.
Well, thank you. I got a question. The last time we met, which was about the payroll, the county doing the bill and payroll, I think we was led to believe that Signature was actually trying to purchase at that particular time the hospital. Okay, at that particular time, I don't think the county was really speaking of purchasing and leasing. Now, what got us to the point from Signature purchasing versus where we're at now? And I'm not saying, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm just.
That's never been the case. It's always been the fact that some way or another we would have to purchase it because of the factor of the financing.
Okay, I don't think anybody on the board took it, but that's the reason I wanted to ask the
I'm
question.
sorry, you misconstrued that, but it's never been that way. Because for them to do it, the payback would just be huge on the 7.5. Well, let's face it, on the 7.5, you're looking at $400,000 plus annual payment at 3.19. Well, if it's 8.5 to 9, I mean, you can do the math. You can double it plus a little, and it won't work. So then the cost factor is the expenses are too great, so it's not going to work. So it has to it's always been looked at that we would come up with.
The meeting we had, Chris is referring to, was 7:30 in the morning, and we was talking about $6 million in that meeting, I think, or so, right at that. But then the 1.8 come into play due to fraud charges by Mr. Snow.
Well,
Do we have to assume that, or
Well-
is there any way we can get out of that?
You've got in your package, and let's just look at those figures, okay? That way, everybody knows what's up there on the page.
Put it up on the.
No, that is, we don't have, no, we don't have, okay? Okay, and it's your very back, or next to the back page. We're looking at assumption of mortgage debt.
Yeah.
2,234,97. Okay, that's actually what that is,
No,
guys.
1.8 is what I was
Well,
talking about.
let's just go through all of it, that way everybody understands what's there, okay? And then we'll address each one of them, okay? That's actually buying the facilities, the hard rock facilities, the ground, the building, those type of things. The assumption of capital lease, that's the equipment, where there's no shown in regards to what's up there, and that's $799,103. Payment of obligation for renovation of MOB. I don't know what the MOB stands for, but that's the addition that Mr. Otis Kelly did to the clinic. No, okay, so, I knew what it was, but, okay. And that's $48,600. Renovation and repair funding, $2 million. That's, let's face it, if you're gonna own it, you need to make it what it ought to be. They've done enough work up there. They've had their people in looking at that entire structure. I'm talking about roof, boiler room, carpet, you name it. They've had people that have been up there for a couple of days or a couple of weeks looking at it, and this is the figure that's come up that it will take to renovate and get it up to standard. Cost report settlement yours says 2012, that's 2011. Okay, $1,866,292. This is with the Medicare number. This is the one that's hard to swallow, but if you're going to get the Medicare and Medicaid number, you got to pay it. They're not going to let you keep the number unless you pay the bill. This is what was incurred in regards to that. Okay, if I say something wrong, you guys speak up. I'll tell you, I'm not an expert in hospitals. I've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks, but that's my understanding of what that is.
George, I might just make a brief comment about this cost report. I suppose I have to estimate for the year ahead what it's going to cost to operate the hospital. And submit that, and then Medicare designs a reimbursement rate that they pay you all year that year. And then toward the end of the year, they do all the accounting and review and tell you if your estimate was good or bad. And if you overestimated and got overpaid, then you have to pay them back. If you underestimated and got underpaid, then they'll pay you back. The way to keep that number from being so big is to do the accounting every quarter and keep up with it. The company in Mississippi was way, way behind and used numbers that turned out not to be good numbers. And we ended up at the hospital with this kind of figure that the hospital owes Medicare in payback. And from conversations I've had already with these gentlemen and their company and our medical staff, spent time yesterday morning with another individual from Hawaii. Their management side, the business people in accounting, it's really an accounting issue. They know how to stay on top of it and be accurate in a way that we have not had before. That's a very good question. But where did that come from? It was from not doing good accounting. That's the right answer.
I appreciate it. Okay, and then the next one, we've got refund for CT2 replacement. CT, kind of, there's not been working sometimes. It costs $127,000 to get it working. So, refund of February payroll funding. That's where signature come up with $135,000 to make that initial payroll that we was talking about. Reserve for 2012 cost report liability per signature. That's 60,000. I assume that's the same as the one that's up above. It's just for 2012. Reserve for cost report settlement 229,908. Guys, all that is a buffer. There's something, who knows what it is, hopefully not much, but there's probably something out there that we missed. And you need a buffer in a $7.5 million thing to come up with something that might come up that we hadn't foreseen. And that gets you up to the $7.5 million. Now, when you look at that, and that figure is going to come up to about a little over $400,000. That's what it's going to amount to when you finance it, that they'll be paying back to us to make that payment.
And where's the $30,000 that the county kicked in? I don't see that in here anymore.
We've discussed that, and I think that's going to be taken care of, Dan. It's not in this because I got this before we talked about it, but I think that's taken care of. Also, I'll mention something else, Jamie, because it's something that we might as well talk about. That's the taxes up there. Houston County gets about $36,000, $37,000 a year in taxes. We've talked to them in regards to that also. I don't know if legally there's a way of them not paying that $36,000 because those taxes are due now. You see what I'm saying? They're from the previous operation. And there may be some legal things there that may force them to have to pay those taxes.
Are they
But,
behind now?
yes, just got behind. Those taxes are, yeah.
Just 1 year.
That's right, just for that. They're on for that 1 year. They were up until, except for, they come due this year, okay? So, but, we talked about doing something maybe in lieu of, working out some arrangements that's fair to them and fair to us in regards to helping the county recuperate some of its tax money that it's going to lose. Because let's face it, we still got to operate. We still have an ambulance service. We still have other things that we got to pay for. But we've got to look at the lease to make it where it is workable for signature, to make it profitable and where they can become a stable company as operating the hospital, but also be fair to Houston County. And that's what we hope we can do when we really get into this lease. And it's an interesting lease. I'm not an attorney, by the way, and we do have a good county attorney, but there's a lot of stuff in there, and we as a group will need to set the study this morning.
Since taxes have been brought up, I'm going to ask that question that's been asked of me. Do you anticipate that our tax rate would have to go up because of this particular deal?
Because of this deal?
Yes, of this deal only.
It will if we can't work out a deal, because we're looking at, if this deal doesn't go through.
No, I say, I assume that
this
it
part
will.
of the deal.
Yeah.
If this deal doesn't go through, we're looking at $200,000 to $300,000 that's going to come strictly from the taxpayer, because an ambulance and what it takes to staff it is going to cost us somewhere between $300,000 and above.
Right.
So that money's got to come from somewhere.
Once you go lose their property tax,
Well,
it goes under.
now, if it goes under, it's going to pay the tax. It's not going to be Mr. Shoemaker. That I don't believe. So, that.
George, can I say something?
Yes, you can, Larry.
If this is not approved and we lose the hospital, you'll never be able to get another hospital in Houston County.
My question was, I hope that we do this. And if we do, will we have to increase taxes
For this?
because of this deal?
No, because the arrangement that we've got with them is whatever that note ends up being, which is the 7.5, and at that 3.19, if that's what we really finally get it locked in at, whatever that payment is, they're willing to make the payment. And above that, so that we can also take that extra money and give it back to them through a charitable group, so that they can also help people that are not able to pay for the services at the hospital.
So how long a time will they do this? Will they pay back the payment?
And I've not gone into I have not had a chance to go through this entire lease, but it's structured to where every 5 years, note, then it renews for 6 times, I believe, for an additional 5 years. Now, let's get real and face the facts, though, John. I've not looked at this lease, and I'm not an attorney, but there's always some way that you can get out of the lease. Let's hope that never happens. As long as they're stable and they can make a profit and provide the services that they need to provide, that's not going to happen. Now, if it does happen, we will not have to worry with Mr. Shoemaker and whether he's going to be bankrupt or not. We will still have a hospital, we'll still have the Medicare number, excuse me, the Medicaid number, stiff and needs the critical access hospital. We just have to look for somebody else to run it. Is that not?
And just, I mean, one comment I'll add to that, once we can hear again, we're already embedded in this community with our skilled nursing facility. This isn't, gosh, things aren't going too well, so we'll just leave because it's no big deal, we just leave. We are embedded in this community. This is a big deal to us. And it's not a quick, let's try it out arrangement. Now, the realities are, let's say the federal government changed their regulations in a way that's a drastic material effect on small rural hospitals, and of course we would have to figure out how we deal with it, and you know, we all imagine scenarios that could happen if regs change dramatically, who knows. But beyond that, this is a big commitment to us. We're already in the community and deeply involved in this community. At least I certainly, from our home office, would feel that way, and I know Barry certainly feels that way.
Well, it makes for a good arrangement. Signature, we have, I don't know how many of you that go to the nursing home. I've been very fortunate, and I'll put it on a personal basis. I had a mother-in-law that was there. She was also in another nursing home prior to this one. And guys, and I've been in several. This nursing home is probably as good a nursing home as you're going to find in the state of Tennessee. Now, don't get me wrong, they make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And it's run good. And it's to, like you were saying, it's to their advantage to work with the hospital. It'll make for a good partner for them to have control of the hospital and the nursing. It makes just good business sense to be there. And so we're really fortunate. I'm going to tell you, we're really fortunate that they're willing to look at and take over management, I think, of our hospital. Because it could be a good working relationship, and it would be good for all of Houston County.
Yes, I'd like to say Barry and his staff have done a great job. If they do half the job they did at the hospital that they're doing at the nursing home, it would be a big success. My question, let me get what's going on here. We got the Blue and Company is did the study as far as the savings on the hospital. Acute care will be the ones that run the hospital.
Well, it will be Signature. We will contract with Blue and Company to provide management expertise.
Okay. So Signature will be the main leaseholder.
Yes, sir.
And Blue and Company will do the management, or do the overseeing of the hospital.
Actually, our management company, Alliant Management Services.
Okay.
But same group, it's just 2 different names, given what aspect of their business they're in.
What is acute care? I heard that come into play. Is that?
Well, that's a Signature set that up as a legal entity that you, just as a legal name that rolls into Signature overall. It's for acute care operations that we get involved in versus skilled nursing facility operations. So we set up a new company with that name. It won't show up anywhere. It won't be a visible name anywhere. It's a legal name that contracts basically.
So Blue and Company will be the main people that oversee the hospital's day-to-day operations.
Well, Alliant, which is, sorry about the name.
Alliant.
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 Yeah.
I'm sorry for the confusion. Just so you, Blue Company is a large CPA firm with about 300 people in it.
Okay.
And half of our business is healthcare. We work with about 270 hospitals through Blue Company as a CPA firm. Alliant Management is our management company arm. And it was set up because, as a CPA firm, there's things that the hospital needs beyond just advisory services. They needed day-to-day operations. And so that's how Alliant Management got born. Alliant Management has been in business since 1978. So it's, neither one of the organizations are short-lived.
Okay. How long have we got this
Okay.
thing drag on?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Jamie, there's a lot of little hoops that we have to jump through. First, one of the first things was I had to find out if the county could actually borrow the money, which we can. We can do that. Excuse me. I've talked so much in the last 3 days, my voice is going, but we can do it by going through the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund and going through Clarksville, which has a public building fund to do that. And that's how we can get the money. We would actually be dealing with the First Bank, I think, is who will actually give the money. But you go through this building fund in Clarksville. Now, one of the things in the lease is, and I'm going to read this to you, the lease to signature cannot be construed as ownership of a hospital. For example, you cannot give signature the right to purchase the facility at the end of the lease. If the structures of the transaction appears to be a lease purchase or that signature is owner, then the county cannot borrow the money. So in this lease that we've got here, and this is a draft, once we finalize it, this will have to be reviewed by the people where we're borrowing the money from. And that's, I don't know if y'all know Mr. Steve Walker or not, but Steve's been around a long time. We dealt with Steve when we were building the schools, the jail, renovation of the courthouse, okay? So it's the same group of people. Now, the timetable, which you talked about, and I do have a timetable. There's a lot of hoops also that we got to do there. And I think I give you copies. I already initiated that, which did not lock us into anything, but I asked for them to go on and prepare us resolutions and notes. And I think I give you a copy of that. That's in your packet that will have to be passed. And notices that will have to be put in the paper. So you have a copy of what that's going to look like. Now, I've tried to make that as broad and as long as I could because I felt like that's what it probably needed to be. And I did that, and that's what it looks like they do. Now, and I'm going to read again from the people that we're going to get the money from, what we're going to do. If the resolution be adopted on the 26th, which hopefully maybe we can get to the 26th. If not, if we can't get everything done by the 26th, which that's our regular scheduled meeting, then what we'll do, we'll recess. We won't adjourn, we'll recess so that we don't have to come, we can come back pretty easy, okay? But they're going to need 2 executed originals of the initial resolution and the loan resolution that you've got. So they got to have that. A copy of the published meeting notice from the local paper. A copy of the affidavit for publication or the actual page from the newspaper. So they've got to know that we advertise, okay? That's standard. We do that when we have meetings anyway. Original affidavit of publication for the initial resolution. It will need to be published. One of them says initial resolution. Those 2 pages will actually have to be published in the paper. And then, once they're published, there's a 20-day waiting period for public comment or for whatever, okay? After that 20 days, then these resolutions that you've passed, if there's not a problem there, they will then have to go to the state of Tennessee and the state controller's office. And he will have to approve this particular loan. Now, a timetable on that. If everything worked, and also I still got to fill out another loan application, even though we got the resolution. It's a pretty lengthy little document too. The middle of May, I can tell you, would be the fastest that we could actually lock this down. The middle of May. Now, if every time that we set back a week, that's another week. But if everything works smoothly, if we did the adoption on the 26th, it would still take probably the middle of May for us to finalize the loan. So that's a tentative type schedule, but there's deadlines and notifications that we've got to make for everything to work for us. Did I make sense in what I said? If not, ask the question, I'll try and clarify.
With that being said, how is payroll going to be?
Right now, I'll let these gentlemen answer, but they have a letter of intent and a management
A
agreement.
lot of people that.
Well, okay, they have a letter of intent and a management agreement with Mr. Shoemaker. And it's for this period of time to allow us to work out this lease agreement. I feel like you're gonna make payroll and operate the hospital. These gentlemen have actually taken over the operation of the hospital for that period of time, given us the time to work out what we need to work out. Then we will purchase it, then we will enter into an agreement with them so that they can continue operating. On a simple basis, that's how the way it works.
That's exactly right. We have an interim agreement to get us through the 60 to 75 to 90 days to really work through all the specifics that Clark mentioned. So we had to work with Mr. Shoemaker to get all that in place and executed before even proceeding with the longer term path that we have to go down. So we have multiple documents for the interim stage, and then we have assumed signature as, and our board approved assuming risk until then, under the assumption that all this will actually take place. So it's a different scenario, unique scenario, but one that we're all well worth the extra step.
I have a question that's been asked of me. Your interim agreement has cut Shoemaker off, Mr. Shoemaker off, and no more funds goes from the hospital to him.
Absolutely correct.
Good.
Our bigger. I'll add that one of our biggest concerns that we were really scrambling until about 2 o'clock last Friday. Well, we're still scrambling, but we reached a comfort level around 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. Was if someone is charged with a criminal offense, a felony, Medicare can pull that provider number or pull the rights to bill under that provider number. Not can they will. And so we had to scramble very actively in discussions in Washington with CMS, which is Medicare, and get to the right people, the program of integrity and enforcement at Medicare at CMS to explain to them this unique situation, and to that right individual that kind of took it to heart at CMS and said, okay, here's the pathway you need to go through, and we're pretty confident that that we can avoid the billing privileges being revoked. So that was a bit of an issue last Friday. But we've been blessed by having some really good people at CMS that have really taken this on and helped guide us through.
George, back on the money, when you look at the numbers you've got there now, and I can understand that just about $3 million of it is what goes to Mr. Shoemaker, the rest of it is for equipment, etc.
Actually, none of it goes to Mr. Shoemaker. It all goes to lending institutions that he owes money to,
Okay,
like the mortgage, rural development or USDA, and there's a bank that they went in partners with. I think Pinnacle has a note there. Now, this $1,001,866, that goes back to Medicare. That's Medicare.
But I mean, for the building and so forth, even though he's not getting it, approximately.
That's what's owed on it.
Okay.
He's not making any money,
Okay.
as far as I know. There is no extra money going to Mr. Shoemaker.
That's just assuming.
This is assuming
Assuming
the
exactly
debt.
what's owed.
Yeah, and the only way, in reality, the only way for the deal to work was, or for him to sign the letter of intent, is for us to take it over. He wasn't going to do it if you didn't. He would have let it bankrupt. He didn't care. Didn't mean anything to him. I don't want to say where he's probably going, but it just didn't mean anything to him.
Several people have asked me if we could have a new name for this new hospital, so have you all thought about that? Please put that on the list. We don't want to be patient's choice anymore. heard several people say that.
Randall?
Second, for you gentlemen, now, once you start the taking over, you're gonna set up a board of directors to govern it, am I correct?
The hospital authority is really the oversight that works with us in conjunction with the operation of the hospital. So we see the hospital authority as being sort of the board of directors for giving us community input and oversight related to operations and of the facility.
What I'm sort of leading to is once this entity takes over, once your board of directors is set up, to me, at least 1 to 2 members of the commission should be a part of that. So we've got some feedback to our group, what's going on.
No, I see that as a tremendous political liability. I can just see people saying, well, this nurse didn't treat me right. I'm going to this commissioner who's on the authority, and I want him to do something about it. I don't think that's a good idea at all. I think we should be completely a third party, completely devoid. You guys run it. You guys are in the business of making money. That's what you should do. We should not be pinching pennies on our end, because if you didn't do what you're going to do, what you say you're going to do, it's going to cost us way more than $7 million over a very short period of time. So we've got to let these people make money. We can't handcuff them in any way. They're the experts. We need to stay out of it.
I agree with family board of trustees.
Who is actually y'all's board? See, who is on who's y'all's board? You serve on
The board of trustees, I'm chairman of the board of trustees.
Who is actually on that committee?
Dr. Martin, Dr. Chambers, we have 2 members from Stewart County.
Okay.
Charles Hathaway and Jim Martin.
Because we do serve a lot of people in the Stewart County area. I mean, Patient's Choice not only serves Houston County, but it serves Stewart County and Dixon County some, and Montgomery County some.
Humphreys County.
And Humphreys. We get a pretty good little circle there of people that we serve.
The board of trustees' responsibility is to make sure that the hospital is being run according to all the regulations that's out there. We don't have anything to do with the financial aspect of it. I don't know if y'all want to continue with the same board of trustees or,
With just all the other issues that we've been trying to deal with, and trying to get our arms around this, we hadn't even thought of putting that stage. I will tell you, we operate, Allied Management owns one other hospital. It owns one of these 22 hospitals. And in that community, we have a local advisory board. It's made up of citizens that live in that community to be able to report to and give us guidance on needs associated with that community. So,
I mean, again, we've been dealing with some more immediate issues and haven't really thought through a lot of those organizational kind of design issues, but it's a very important question. Just philosophically, we value having 1 or 2 community. I don't know what the in total count would be, so when I say 1 or 2, I'm assuming it'd be a fairly small group, but we would have to figure that out. But some degree of community representation we value, depending on the comfort of community representatives to be on that board. So I instinctively feel that there's value in that, depending on your own comfort with it.
Harry, you might comment to that because you served on this board for a number of years as a community.
I'm not medical.
You were one of the county commissioners, but you've been a community representative. It's what Mr. Gerald is referring to, where you get caught in crossfire or pressure.
The board of trustees, I became a member because I opened my mouth when I shouldn't have. But board of trustees is a group of people that is interested in making sure that the hospital is run sound, accurate, and have a good medical staff. And the medical staff has access to what they need, as well as the employees of the hospital. And it's a big, long list that you have to go through, and we meet, once every 3 months, or sooner if we need to. And it's a non-compensated job, but it needs to be done, and yes, I agree that you do need to have community representation.
I just don't want to see commissioners on the board. I think that's too politicized. I think we need community involvement, but not the commissioners.
We need to meet before the 26th.
Oh, yeah, we will be, we will
Several
have to.
times.
be
Good,
before the 26th if we get some of the things that we're talking about done. This is not, tonight, there's not a real decision to be made other than that I think all of us here, it looks like, are wanting to work toward making this work.
Yes.
It's just, now we gotta work out the details within some of the things that we've talked about, especially the government, see how it goes. And we need to get started on that. Because 26 is not far off. And like I say, I started reading the document today and I got to page 8 as far as I got. I got it late this afternoon, and I'm sure Markley, she's much better than I am because we talked about it. I doubt if she got through the whole thing either. And when what I read, I needed to talk to Markley, okay? Because I'm not an attorney. I know my limits, but and then as commissioners, you need to understand. You need to understand what's in that list, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment. Because of the number of facility employees that are in the audience out here, would it not be feasible to take a straw poll on what the commissioners are thinking? Are they leaning towards approving this or not?
I think most of us, I can't speak for you directly, I can speak for myself. I'm definitely leaning toward it because I know the importance of the hospital. But I know I have to read this and understand it before I can say yes or no. I tend to think just by listening to what was going on today, I feel confident that a lot of good people put a lot of hard work and effort into it, and it's going to be for the best interest of our community. So I believe that's going to be a positive response, at least on my side. And I don't know if I could say, are you going to vote yes or are you going to vote no? I don't think I could do that.
I wouldn't actually do that.
Okay.
Please. All I was asking was if they could say.
I think something like a motion to that we are willing to move forward in a constructive manner to try and make this work for the people of Houston
That's
County.
exactly what I was going to ask.
We might do something like that, which is saying that we're willing to work with the signature and try and make it work. That's
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Does anyone out there have any questions?
Speaking as a citizen, this hospital's losing money right now, but I'd be embarrassed to take someone in. It's that $2 million for upkeep, boy, that's really needed. I'd hate to see us start cutting. It's deep. That place is really, really run down last year. I hate to have to work.
Anyone else?
Okay, this contract that we're talking about now, who wrote this? I mean,
This is a draft that comes from Signature to us. I asked them to prepare us a draft for us to look at, okay? Now, it's what I say, a draft, okay?
But I suppose I certainly
Well,
see something that's sort of,
that's when we're gonna work with their attorneys and them to try and work out those differences with you.
this is not 100%.
No.
Okay.
It's a draft. I'd like to say, I'd like to say, you know, I've been doing this job that I'm doing for a long time, and I really appreciate that from the citizens. But this decision in regards to this hospital will probably be the most important decision that's been made by this legislative body, as long as I can remember, as being county maintenance. And let's hope that we can make it work. And I want to say thank you to the citizens that are here tonight, because it's your hospital, it's your county, and you need to have a say. And you need to talk to your commissioners. You elect these gentlemen and these ladies. Didn't miss you? These ladies. And they try to do a good job. And they need the input from you to help them make the right decision. With that said, I'm not going to say anything else because we've been here for a while.
Mr. Clark, I'd just like to say that I've been in nursing homes as a retired pastor all across this state. And I know I've been in several senior years. And people in this community can go to nursing home and see the improvements that's been made. And I can't think of a better company to run the hospital than the senior home.
Motion adjourned.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned for the evening.